Morning, it's just about 9 o'clock here on Tuesday. We went to bed really early last night, before 10 o'clock local time, and then I woke up at about 5:12 this morning. That never used to happen. But I didn't get out of bed till 7:30. Megan went to work from here this morning. I've gotten through some mail and some stuff this morning, but I'm gonna head down to Auto Armor right now. I don't remember if I showed you guys what happened with the M5, but sometime after that Ferrari drive that we didn't take the 355 on because it didn't start, so I took the M5 and I reviewed the photos that I took of the car, and it hadn't happened yet at that time. But if we come down here and look at the fog light is broken, so something came up here at pretty good rate of speed and hit it and cracked it. And I've seen this happen, like Kennon's is broken and has been for a year. It happened on Colt's 540 once he drove to Ohio, and I think it was this same fog light in all instances. Kennon, let me know if it's your drivers or passengers. I think it's your drivers. Which sucks, because that one's only 5 years old and has only been in there for like 25,000 miles at best. And it's clear filmed with Expel Ultimate, or whatever they call the nice Expel clear film that's on there. But that one was kind of hazy. I noticed kind of right before I filmed them that one just looked foggy inside a little bit. And I thought, oh, maybe it's dirty or whatever, but probably a seal broke and some water got in there and some condensation or whatever. But I've got a new one. I went with FCP, so if it happens again, I'll get a replacement. It sucks because they're about 140 bucks for the genuines. They're expensive fog lights. But I got a fresh one here. I ordered it right before I left town. It was here when I got back. So I'm going to run that down to Auto Armor now. They opened 1 minute ago, and you know, if they do charge me to do it, it's not going to be much, right? I mean, that's this much film, and it could totally be a scrap off of some other project they've done. And they do nothing but wrap and film high-end cars in there, so I'm sure there'll be some scrap material. I'd love to be able to wait on it. I don't want to have to drive back down there, but if that's the case, then that's the case. We'll see where we get. Wish me luck. Look at the color. Oh, it's beautiful. I've missed it, even by California standards. This is above and beyond. Cutting through Balboa Park yesterday in the Uber on the way back from the airport, it looked like Ohio in May. All this ratty grass is just bright green and growing next to the highway. It's gorgeous. Success. I took the fog light down there. Guys were awesome. They aren't busy at all. And they were able to film it for me in about 8 minutes. If I can get this damn box open, we shall see. There she blows. And it came with a bulb. Let's see what it comes with. This one was made February 6th, 2018. This is a Philips 12 volt, 55 watt, and then 51 watt above it, 9006, which will just be the yellow one that I don't really want. So I'll keep my existing bulb. But that's going to be my first order business, just to get it done. See if I can do this with one hand. Nope, gonna need a tool. Pop the cover off, and then I think it's 2 8mm that hold the thing in there. Many hours later. It's like 4 o'clock right now. I got that fog light in. That took 3 minutes. That's done. It works. Looks great. This one I have done a lot of work on Sterling here. So the battery box is gone. The battery is gone. I took apart the wiring inside of the trunk and pushed it all through. And I don't even think this is it, or maybe it is. But the trunk wiring is through. The only thing holding the trunk on right now are a couple Torx bolts. If I had somebody else here to help me, I would pop those out and remove the trunk lid. But that's more than a one-person job. Same thing with the subframe. I took off the control arms here, and then I've already removed 2 of the subframe bolts. The subframe's only held in with 2 bolts right now. Although the only thing attached to the subframe that's adding weight to the subframe itself is the differential. 2 bolts, these things are 21 mils, they go about up into here. They're huge bolts, it's fine. So there's that. I pushed through all of the little plugs for the wheel speed sensors, the ABS module, the steering servo, all of that stuff, all of the wiring. Like, I've got the car down to 3 or 4 wiring harnesses right now. It's really stripped down. Especially up here in the front, you see everything hanging. So here's like the whole cluster of lights that goes to the front corner of the engine bay. I've taken the ground straps off. I see ballasts, fog lights, turn signals, horns, steering servo, ABS sensor, brake pad wear sensor. All of that stuff came through this little hole. This is the wiring for the DSC pre-charge pump. I removed the radiator. That's out, so there's a lot of room in there. This is the AC condenser, I guess, so we'll have to figure out how to drain that and evacuate that system before I remove it. Here's all the wiring for the front right corner of the engine bay. That would be the aux fan. That's the low beam, headlight leveling. I still recognize most of these connectors. The one that's ripped off, like you see just the bare wires, can you guess what that is? That's the temp sensor, good guess. Oh, here's a plug I didn't shove through the firewall because I don't have the carpeting up yet to pull the other side of it through. But this would be for this turn indicator that lives in that fender, and the washer fluid tank and pump and all of that. All of this is still here. I removed anything that holds these brake lines up, so these brake lines are just sagging. I removed the fuel pressure regulator and the fuel filter. So these lines are just hanging and may have some fuel in them. No, not that one. But I'll leave it up here in case it does. I don't want leaking fuel in here. And not just because the state says that would be bad either. That's just bad for anything. Come down this way and there's not really much left. I'm gonna move this light out of the way and then I'll show you inside. I removed the front left fender. I need to get a shipping quote on that to Austin, Texas. So that came out, if I didn't mention that before. The wiper motor is now gone. Really, I just went around unplugging everything. Like, there's so many wires on this car. This little thing that goes to the brake, what is that, brake fluid reservoir. There's a temp sensor or something down here in the oil filter housing. There's something on these heater control valves here. There's one on the top and one on the bottom. So a lot of wiring. I can't wait to get the carpets up and see exactly what that looks like. The doors are a little funky right now because I have removed the latches. Those are gone. They plug in for some reason. I guess the sensor that tells it if the door is open. So there's a plug for that. The door panels are gone. The vapor barriers are gone. The speakers, the handles. And I did not know that the doors themselves unplug. I even took the door brake off back here, so it's just flapping all over the place. The doors themselves unplug from the chassis. Like, I just shoved it back in the hole, but this is what the door plugs into. It's a wiring harness. So I figured I was going to have to, like the trunk lid, go through everything in the door, unplug it, feed it through, and then pull it back into the chassis. Nope, they were smart. They made the doors have their own plug, so the door plugs in. Very cool. So I had to put it back together. But that's how that goes. You learn as you go. All of the wiring that used to be in the trunk is now in the back seat. I've pulled it through that hole, some holes up here in the rear deck. And when I get the seats out, that's the next big thing. And that's really hard to do right now on a lift because the doors don't open all the way. Believe it or not, the seat motors still work if I plug the battery in. Like, the car looks like this. It would still start, well, no, it wouldn't. It doesn't have a fuel filter or a fuel feed. But whatever is in that line, it would start and ingest. And the seats still work, and the steering column still works if I ask it to. And you'll notice that I removed that whole front tubular chassis thing up there that sits under the dash. When you take that out, that's gone. And all of this is here. The seats will come out, then the carpet will come out, then we'll get the rest of these wires out, or at least trace them up to the DME and the dash and the fuse box. Yeah, the doors are just so floppy. And then I put the battery over here. When you take the battery box off, it's literally just a bunch of 10 mil plastic bolts, and then that lifts out, and then you've got a huge hole in the chassis. Non-split folds, as you can see. All of this is taken apart. There's no wires over here, which is weird because that's generally where all of them are. When you take off the sound insulation, you see some corrugation in there, I assume for strength. That was the hole that fed the wheel speed sensor and stuff over there. Through there. And then it's the same thing over here. Really, the only part that still looks normal is the seat, and it's not even normal because the guy moved this switch is supposed to be over here, and this one's supposed to be empty unless you have the one that adjusts in the back, which the M5's never got. But same deal with the front doors, pretty much down to the shell. I assume the front doors work the same way, in the way that you just unplug them and don't have to trace all the wiring. And then I'm not sure what I want to do with these doors. Like, the doors themselves are pretty nice. If anybody needed a sterling door, it's got beautiful shadow line trim in it, it's got a nice window, a nice door handle, everything works. I would even include a vapor barrier and speaker and anything else that people would want, but that just may be too difficult to do. I guess the next thing, and I worked on it for an hour before getting so mad that I quit. I can't figure out what is still holding in the parking brake handle. This isn't what took me an hour. Like, I've taken out 2 nuts and the cables aren't even there anymore, but there's something still holding that in. But this, the steering column, what a pain in the ass that thing was. So I finally got, there's a U-joint at the bottom that goes into a spline, and I got that off. That took about 45 minutes with prying, and I took the pinch bolt out and then tried to pry it open and pry the splines out, but it just took an hour of all the force I could possibly give it to get the thing to pull out. But it finally did. But now what's left of the column is bolted to the chassis, and it's in a bolt that doesn't have a head on it. A factory bolt with no head. And I even went over here to the carbon black car that we got last week and took off the little floor pan in there and looked up there, and it's the exact same thing. So it's not like somebody ground it off. So I don't know how you're supposed to remove what's left of that steering column. I see no way to do it. So I'm gonna have to spend a bunch of time online. This, that's as thick as my wrist, is all wiring. I mean, look at this. This is ridiculous. It comes into the fuse box here and then into ground blocks and up to the DME, which is just on the other side of the firewall. It's insane how many wires are in this car. If you took them out, you would have like hundreds of miles of wiring probably. It still has a functional 545i shifter in it, and then all of this plastic stuff. I don't even know or understand why there's so much of it. All of that's going to have to come apart and come out. Hopefully I can remove it kind of in one piece, but I mean, this is a part of the car that I have never worked on, never even seen before. So yeah, it's easy taking off trim and stuff because I've done that a lot, but I've never had one down this far before. My dad did an excellent job of organizing all of our parts. The inside parts are inside in one of the offices, and then the outside dirty parts are out here. But I have not been good today about keeping it clean, so I'll clean up tomorrow. But rear door panels, the one's in a little nice, this one's in nicer shape than the other. This one is almost completely perfect. This is the rear, left door. The passenger rear door has kind of a big crease in it here, and then it needs some glue to hold this part of the panel in because the little cubby area, and you can tell somebody tried to fix it before. That can be fixed. You know, these things are old. But otherwise, it's a nice panel. The stuff that's hard to fix, like tears in the leather, all of that's nice. They're not M5 panels, but if you know anybody that wants clean black E39 door panels, drop me a line. Here's that battery box. The battery goes in here, and then the tire pressure, whatever stuff goes in there. There's that metal part that is up in the dash. And the radiator's actually torqued. Can you tell? Like, I tried to straighten it out, but it is flexed a little bit, probably from the impact. The interior, we still have a full Alcantara headliner. There's no demand for it seemingly, which surprises me. There's the coilovers, axles, sunroof cassette, cats, headlights, mufflers, drive shaft, chassis supports, all the aluminum shielding. Wow. See it all laid out like this. This is a lot of parts. Door gaskets. Wow. So when I got back here yesterday, this stupid thing was beeping every 30 seconds. Low battery, low battery. So if I open it up and take the panel off, then it says, wait for it, cover tamper. And the security system calls the account on file, which is my dad, and says, hey, what's going on? Why are you taking the cover off? And if you don't answer, then they probably send the police out. So I had to get him on the phone. He's in Mexico right now, down in Puerto Vallarta. Got him on the phone yesterday, opened up the cover. Sure enough, they call 5 minutes, not even 2 minutes later. Asked if everything's okay. Told them, yeah, the battery's dead. We were trying to open it up to see what kind of battery it is. They said, okay, we'll look for it to come back online shortly. Ordered the battery on Amazon. Now it's here. It's a weird looking battery for a security system. I have it over here. So remember, like, RC cars when we were kids? They had batteries that looked like this. They look like 6 AA's shrunk wrap, heat shrunk. That's probably a better term, heat shrunk. And then it's just got a little 2-pin lead on it. Well, I opened up the cover and took the battery out, and here it is. And why does it still work? There's only 2 wires that plug into this thing, and they must be power because it still works. So this is probably a redundancy system, a backup in the event of a power outage. This thing would probably run this for many, many days, if not weeks on end. And it was installed maybe 2014 or so. So 5 years out of a battery. 20 bucks on eBay, or on Amazon, kind of a pricey one. And it got here. I haven't had time to mess with it and open it up. I went to dinner downtown, Old Town, not Old Town, Little Italy tonight with Megan and her sister, and that was really nice. We ate at a new place and had lovely wine and pizza. I had pizza, they did not have pizza. But I got a lot of work done at the shop today. That's where I spent the majority of the day. I was up early, got the fog light done on my M5, and then the shop. And while I was there, I heard all this noise and it got real dark, and I looked outside, it's pouring down rain. It pulled a 100% Ohio today. There was no chance of rain all day today. It was beautiful and clear, and then it just decided to cloud up, and for about 30 minutes, a pretty good rain. And I worked for another few hours and then went out and inspected things, and everything was dry and the sun had come back out, so I drove home. I got home, 10 minutes later, it started raining again. Dickered. Good news is, in about 8 or 9 days, then there's a string of forecasted 72 and clear every single day. So I really hope that symbolizes the back to the usual here in California. But I'm dead. It's like 10:30. I'm gonna get to bed tomorrow. We got another day of picking parts and working on the car up at the shop, and I will talk to you guys then. Good night.